And welcome back to Landrum's HR Essentials. This is our short video series focused on discussing best HR practices. As always, our goal is to break down complex topics into clear, actionable, and practical insights you can use. Our topic today is manager burnout. So let's explore it. I think where the best place to start with this conversation is why it matters. And of course, there's always the human factor of why it's important. We want our employees to have successful, respectful relationships with the organization. But it's bigger than that, right? This conversation is important because how a manager is conducting themselves really has a trickle down effect to more than just their immediate team. So when you talk about it overall, manager burnout affects turnover, it affects disengagement, it affects risk. All of these things are interconnected. According to recent Gallup polls, over 50% of managers are reporting feeling burnt out. Now, trickle that down a little bit further. 70% of disengagement with employees is driven by the manager's relationship with their group. So when you talk about manager engagement dropping from 30% to 27%, all of these numbers have a very big impact on a business. So I propose this thought. Burnout is not really a performance issue so much as is that's design issue. I think that manager burnout is often framed as a time management problem. It's framed as emotional intelligence issues. It's proposed as a self-care issue. But I think the lens that we should be looking at it through is a systems issue, a compliance issue. And I think that is where we're going to find better leadership and how can we create better leaders within our organizations by designing better systems that support them. So when you think about managers and all the things that they're doing, I don't think that managers are having trouble managing because they've just forgotten how to manage, right? I think the role itself has significantly changed. I think that if you have 52% of managers reporting that their day feels chaotic and it feels fragmented between meetings and emails and notifications and all of these things that are coming at them, it's no wonder that they're sort of on this road to burnout. When you think about all of the things that modern managers carry as well, that traditional framing of time management no longer works. How can they carry everything? They've got people leadership, they have compliance gatekeeping, they have documentation and record keeping, they have change management um, if they're going through an organizational change. If you have performance coaching, there's so many things that a manager touches throughout the day, regardless of what their own emotional labor looks like within their own position, not even the leadership aspect of it and the risk mitigation that goes with that. And all of these things are on their plates that we've asked them to do within an organization in this very critical role, but we haven't changed the job. So the expectations have changed, but the capacity has not. So when you think about all of the things that they're doing, they don't have additional time for that. They don't necessarily always have clear workflows for all those things. They don't maybe have training for some of those legal nuances that are going to come up in their new roles. They certainly don't have administrative support. We don't have extra bodies to take care of some of these other tasks. So I think most manager burnout is not caused by people. It's not caused by problems within the organization so much as it's caused by systemic obstacles that are in the organization that create additional challenges for managers to address every day. And it's usually a manual process that's the culprit, right? It's a manual performance review process. It is a unclear or changing workflow for maybe leave, or it's repetitive documentation that is sucking up a lot of time during the day. It's constant policy interpretation that maybe changes from group to group or situation to situation. I think that there's always a lot of fear about managers getting it wrong legally. They're afraid to make a misstep with good reason, right? They're the agents of the organization. They are they're worried that they're going to say the wrong thing or they're going to do the wrong thing. So I think that it is a much bigger issue than how it's been traditionally framed up in that lens of time management. I think it's more than that. I think it's more than a well-being issue. I think it's not about emotional intelligence within that role either. I think it is an overall systemic support that needs to change, because I think what we've seen is that burnout exists long before we're really aware of it and long before it shows up in those engagement scores that I just talked about. So I think we start seeing it in HR when it's the inconsistent application of policies, or it's a lot of missed deadlines as it's related to FMLA or ADA or uh, items such as that. I think you see it with managers that are really avoiding difficult conversations. It's not that they necessarily want to have them, but they also don't know how to have them, but they don't have time to have them properly. So all of these things start to fall out. So it's a pattern that comes from these obstacles that create this cognitive overload for managers. And I think that's when you start to see the breakdown. So if we want compliant behavior, I think we need to design a better compliance system. So that's a lot to take in, right? How are we going to address all these problems? Because every organization has them. All the managers that we know, that I know, that are all dealing with these same multitasking, multi-deadline days. And how do we help them with that? Now, I know what you're going to say when I say this next thing, but I think that we can utilize a very important tool, and that's AI. Now, before you get worried about it, I'm not talking about AI replacing managers. What I'm talking about is AI being a very important piece of the puzzle to make sure that the managers have time to deal with things that require that human empathy, that touch, that dialogue, that interaction and relationship with the team that becomes so important. AI is there to remove work that doesn't require that human judgment. And I think that's where AI can be most useful to these managers that have all of these areas that they're responsible for. There are a lot of things that AI can help a manager with if coached properly how to use it. There are things like drafting performance notes, meeting summaries. Remember, 52% of managers have reported that their day feels chaotic and fragmented because of meetings documentation, emails, notifications, things of that nature. So if we can address that with a tool that will pull away some of those administrative duties and create follow-up emails, create meeting summaries, create better documentation. It gives the manager more time to address the things that are more important. So the AI is there to assist. It's not there to make decisions because that's the manager's job. So it helps the manager get prepared for those human conversations. It's a coaching tool to help managers do better at their job. It frees them up so it can help them prepare talking points, let's say for a difficult conversation. It can help them anticipate employee questions so when they go into the conversation, they feel more confident. It can help them to create more compliant language, some more respectful language. It'll help them stay away from some of those areas that they want to stay away from in the conversation with the employees. So, what should AI not be doing? We should not be using it to make employment decisions. We should definitely not be using it um, to evaluate protected characteristics. It should definitely not be used to replace human judgment. And there are areas as managers where that happens. Human judgment is the core piece of being a good manager. So that would be disciplinary, that would be terminations, accommodation decisions. Because think about it, we sort of put managers in a trap. We want them to be empathetic, but we want them to document. We don't want them to get it wrong legally, but we want them to move faster. All of those are very contradictory, and it can be difficult to manage that as a manager. So we want to bring the human leadership piece back into leadership. Instead of burying managers in the process of being a manager, we want to reduce the administrative load. So AI can responsibly help with that aspect of those day-to-day operation activities that managers are dealing with. So reducing the administrative load, standardizing compliance heavy tasks like notes and things of that nature, documentation. It's there to guide, but not decide. That's the manager part. So AI doesn't take the empathy and the decision making away from managers. It gives them time to practice it. And I think that that's really very helpful for a manager because anything that's going to require human judgment, you want the manager to have time to address that and be free to lead people, not paperwork. So I think what you're looking for AI to take over would be low risk, high impact activities. That's going to build a more confident manager. That's going to build a better employee experience because they're going to feel that they're getting the full attention of the manager and the organization that they've invested themselves in. And so there may be fewer reactive experiences that lead to HR. So how does this all come back to human resources? I don't think the question is whether or not managers should be using AI. I think the question is how can we help them use it appropriately and better? What kind of tools can we give them to know how to use it when, how to use it capably, and to make sure that they are getting the most out of it so they can get the most out of their management relationship with their people. And that means defining some guardrails. So identifying the situations where you feel like managers should be using it, they can use it, and then enable them to use it. So that way they're not getting involved in unsafe decision making, allowing AI to make decisions that they shouldn't be. So again, using AI to support, not replace the judgment. And that's where it does the best. That way, HR and managers are working in a coordinated effort to improve the employee experience. AI is really only risky if you're allowing it to make decisions without you. You need that human aspect, but it becomes a very powerful tool when it's helping managers to get rid of some of those obstacles that prevent them from being successful in their jobs day to day. So I don't think that the question is managers are burned out because they don't care. Managers are burned out because they don't have the time management skills. I think they're burned out because the systems that they're currently working in and all those expectations that they continue to be loaded with and have responsibility and accountability for, they consume the amount of time that they have to care. So finding a better way to create a better system, to create a better design for them to work within that system, I think it helps your managers become better managers. So AI is not the situation, or excuse me, the solution all by itself, but it is a very important tool to helping your managers become the best managers they can be. So I think if we want managers to lead with empathy and consistency and fairness and all the things that we want their experience to be as a manager, then we should design systems that will enable them to do that. So that's my thought for the day. Thank you for joining me. And remember, here at Landrum HR Solutions, we exist to make the business of people easier. So if we can assist your company with any of your people needs, please reach out. We would be happy to do so. Until next time, have a great day.